What's going on, guys? So how do you actually warm up to 2019? I'm here in my office here, and I want to talk to you about exactly how do you rev up or warm up to the new year, So I'm going to set this down, and it doesn't matter actually when you're watching this, but we're 2 weeks out from 2019. And this is an incredible time because right before you're about to do something great, or right before you're about to turn into a new thing, you got to get warmed up. You got to rev up for the new year. So I want to go over exactly 5 things that you have to dial down in your mind so that way you can really dominate 2019. Now, why do you even want to go and take this approach where we are kind of warming up for the year? So any great thing you do in your life, you're gonna have to lean into it. And that starts with you getting your mind right. It starts with you getting your strategies right. So I want to share those 5 strategies with you here today so that way you can actually dominate 2019 with a vengeance, I guess. Or, you can lean into who you want to become. So number one, as we get started with 2019, or as we get started with doing that next thing, you have to really come from the place before you set any goals, before you do anything, you have to really have this one sentiment. And that is, you got to believe and you have to have this affirmation that, you know what? I'm limitless. I'm limitless. And when you kind of affirm that or you state that to yourself, your mind and your thoughts, they're going to give you a ton of limitations. They're going to make you feel like, oh, you're really not limitless. You have these drawbacks, or you know what? This is what you're hesitating on, or these are the things you can't do. As soon as you start getting those hesitations, you got to question the hesitations. You got to question the limitations. Because I'll tell you this, if you don't question the hesitations, you'll eventually start questioning yourself. So that's a big one. Before you sit down and write down your goals, whether it's your journal, whatever it is, before you do that stuff, you got to really have that sentiment that, hey, I don't have limits. The only limits that I have are those that are self-created, self-imposed. And your mind will kind of convince you that, hey, no, you got limits. Well, as soon as those limits come up, as soon as those negative thoughts come up, you as the owner and the operator of your intentions, you have to kind of start saying, hey, let me question those thoughts. Let me question those limitations. Because if you don't question those, you're just going to start questioning yourself. You're going to start doubting yourself. And one way to avoid doubting yourself is to doubt the limitations. You got to doubt the limitations. As soon as you start doubting the limitations, you don't doubt yourself. Because you know that the power that you have on anything first starts with your belief that, hey, there are endless amounts of possibilities here. So that leads me to number 2. You have to think in frames of possibility. Look, here's the thing. When you think in the frame of possibility, you will find the ability. You will create the ability to do what you want to do. You see, we don't think in frames of possibility. We start thinking in frames of limitation. We start thinking in frames of fear. We start thinking in the frame of, oh, I've never done it before. I didn't do it last time, so who am I to kind of think that I can do it this time? Maybe, you want to get into that new relationship, start that new career, move on to that new entrepreneurial vision, start that new business, whatever it is for you. Wouldn't it be helpful for you to not think in terms of, your hesitations, maybe think in terms of possibility? So dial that out. What's possible for you this year? What's possible for you as you step ahead and you turn into the new year? Because I can promise you this, when you start thinking in terms of possibilities, your world will give you opportunities to create that ability. And your mind will also say, hey, I'm now thinking in terms of possibility and what's possible for me, that I need to start creating the ability or generating that ability to get it. So possibilities will give you the ability to get to that next place. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to have to do the work. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have to sit down and, get focused or learn what you have to do to get to the next step. But here's the thing. Possibility is where it starts. You have to think in the frame of possibility. Number 3, realize that whatever you went through, this year doesn't define you. It only refines you. Whoever you were this year is not who you are for the next year. You can choose for the next year. You can flip over this year and say, hey, you know what? It didn't quite work out for me this year. Those results weren't ideal. Or maybe these things didn't go as planned. But guess what? I can now choose who I want to become for this year. You can choose who you want to be. Remember that. It doesn't define you. It only refines you. And leave those setbacks, those failures, those quote unquote things that didn't go your way, leave them in the past. Leave them in those years. Those are things that happen in certain situations. They don't define you. Those things only refine where you're going. They only refine what's next for you, right? They only refine who you're becoming. Number 4. Realize that you have to double down on the process, not the position. Double down on the process, not the position. Let me tell you what that means. When you double down on the position of something, you're overly indexing on the outcome. You're looking at the outcome of where you want to go. Yeah, it's clear. It's good to be clear on where you want to land, but a lot of times people overly focus on the outcome. Oh, I need to get here. I need to make this much money. I need to have this type of relationship. I need this type of career. I need this big thing here. Well, here's the thing. If you're always focused on the vision that's way out there, you're going to ignore the process. And when you ignore the process, you never get to that position. So for this year, wherever you're at, maybe you're watching this at the middle of the year, but as we approach the new year, tell yourself that I'm going to double down on the process. What are some of the things I need to do on a daily basis? How do I have to sleep? What are some of my routines on a Monday, on a Tuesday? How do I have to kind of go through my week? What are some of the processes to get me there, right? You're only going to translate forward when you focus on the process of moving forward. It's kind of like, it's like finding that meaning. You're only going to find the meaning when you find that momentum. And you're only going to get the momentum when you focus on the process. It's like riding a bike. You take that right foot, you push the pedal down just a little bit, the bike moves forward. You take the left foot, you push the pedal down. You take the right foot, push down. The bike starts moving forward slowly but surely. As you move forward, you get more clear on the meaning of where you're supposed to go, where you're going, your direction. You have a clearer idea of how things are progressing. You see, meaning comes from momentum. Momentum comes from focusing on the process. So, it's kind of like, it's like the windshield of life, right? If it's you got all this rain on the windshield, the rain's not going to go away if the car's just sitting there. As soon as you start moving, all that stuff, the wind moves and clears the rain off the windshield a little bit, and it gets clear, right? So your meaning will come when you focus on the momentum. The momentum comes when you focus on the process of what you're supposed to do every day. Your routines, your morning routines, your afternoon routines, your rituals, the big goals in your life. How do you chunk those down? How do you dial those down and focus on, hey, these are the things I got to get done to really win the day. These are the things I got to get done to win the week. You win the week, you win the month, you start winning the year, okay? That was pretty loud. So number five, first and foremost, after you do all of this, you have to internally believe it's possible for you. You have to believe it's possible for you. You see, a lot of times we're doing the right things and we're wondering how come things aren't moving forward, or, we're just feeling empty sometimes. It's because we're not believing that it can happen. And I know this sounds a little like voodoo magic, but here's the thing. Belief is powerful. Belief is intention set into motion in your mind. So you're taking those intentions and you are now putting into motion by saying, hey, every activity I do, I am believing in myself. I believe that just because it didn't happen for me last year, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen this year. It doesn't matter if it doesn't even happen now. I'm in the solid belief, that firm belief that, hey, I'm moving in that right direction. I'm going towards my vision because I'm taking action on those daily processes and I believe in it, right? You have to believe it's possible for you. I'll tell you this, the world will push you negativity. It will push you hesitation. It will push you kind of limitation your way. No one is gonna sit there and give you belief. The only person that will believe in you first and foremost is yourself. It all starts with you. Give yourself the gift of belief. Give yourself the gift of saying, hey, just to review, the first one, saying, I'm limitless. I do not have limits. The limits that I have are those that are self-created constructs in my mind that I'm replaying. Maybe there's stories. Maybe there's that need for validation. These are all limitations you are drawing into your story in your mind about why you can't do something, right? And that's why I said, number 2, you got to think in terms of possibility. Because when you think in terms of possibility, you generate the ability to get something done. You will get focused. You'll think about it. You'll know it's possible. And then you got to realize that just because you didn't do it yesterday doesn't mean you can't do it today. What you've been through doesn't define you. It only refines you. And that's when we landed on number 4, which was, hey, double down on the process. And don't overly focus on the position or the outcome of where you want to be. Double down on the process. In today's day where things are so distracting with all the stuff coming at us, focus on the process. Get down, block your time and say, these are the things I got to do. And lastly, belief. Have the belief in yourself. Give yourself the gift of that. Don't stack the decks. Don't stack the cards in someone else's favor. Stack the cards in your favor by saying, hey, I believe in myself. It's possible. It's okay. Just because it didn't go my way doesn't mean it's not going to go my way, right? So I hope this helped. As you start and you launch off to this next year, keep these 5 things in mind and you will see that your year, wherever you are, you're watching this, it's the beginning, it's towards the end of December, we're about to lean into 2018. Wherever you are, you'll find that whatever time you're sitting down and setting your goals or really planning your year or planning your week or your month, knowing these 5 things will really boost any sort of things that you want to do. Those things are going to come into your life quicker, more effectively, and you are going to be more fulfilled when we're doing it because this is an intentional process. Integrating these 5 attributes into your thinking is an intentional process. And anytime you're more intentional about your outcomes, intentional about your process, intentional about your limits or your lack of limitation, and intentional about your possibilities, great things start to happen. So I hope this one served you. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And I will see you in the next video. As always, live inspired.